Welcome to Coach's Corner, a series designed to share the stories and philosophies of baseball coaches at the high school, college, and professional levels. I'm your host, Coach K, where we visit the peak here at Etowah High School in Woodstock, Georgia, where we sit down with a man who's amassed 3 state championship titles, including coaching hundreds of players move on to the collegiate and professional levels. As a player, in 1978, reached the pinnacle of the college baseball world with the UNC Tar Heels, hitting a 3-run home run, the game winner against Michigan. Shortly thereafter, signing with the Texas Rangers. In his 18th season at the helm of these Eagles, let's meet head coach Greg Robinson. Coach, thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate the time.
Good to be out here in the sun and at the peak.
How did you get your start in coaching? Was there something that told you, you know what, I wanted to do this, or did coaching find you, or how did you get that going?
Gosh, I came from the smallest county in North Carolina, Lee County, where, you played Little League 9, 10, 11, 12, so the same guy, junior major, and then high school. I had great coaches all the way through. Got drafted at 9 years old. Rex McLeod, former Marine, he was shot wounded at Iwo Jima, and he just poured himself into us as young kids. High school, Carson Odom for 4 years, and those guys just really had an impact on my life. And so Paul Gay, football, and we had some success there in that small county. And then go off to UNC to play, and I just really felt early on that that's what I wanted to do. I just kind of wanted to try to give back. My dad was a teacher. He just obviously had the most impact on me. Mom was a nurse. So I just grew up in a family of, nurturing, teaching, training, caring for people. And I just kind of gravitated to that through the education process and then the coaching, and very blessed to be it.
This is going to be a loaded question. How do you define success as a coach when you got a group of 14 to 18-year-olds? I think there's 100 different ways that you can describe that. And for each individual, it depends on the coach. But I also think there's some underlying principles around that kind of unite a group together that we can answer that question. What does success look like for you?
You're right. It's a loaded question. I reflect back to I started in 1980, so I haven't always been at the high school level, but to be successful, I can remember winning a region championship my first year in a little one-horse town in North Carolina. Aunt B still lived there, from Andy Griffith, so that was 100 years ago. Next year, we win 3 games at another school. So you can't always measure success with W's. First and foremost, you're trying to change the lives of young guys. Just have an impact on them, making sure they're taking care of their academics, making sure they're being a good ambassador for the sport in their school, trying to give back to the community, doing service-oriented things. So, they're going to be a young man a lot longer than they're going to be a baseball player. So, yes, we all want to try to win baseball games. That's why we're here, to try to win banners and win championships. But if I forget the main purpose is to mold the lives of young men, then I'm going to have to get out of it.
And it seems like winning championships is something you're no stranger to. I look at the philosophy of coaching, and one thing I've learned very early on is you can have a process and not always get the result you want. But you can sometimes get the result you want and not always follow that process. What does that look like for you? Because I know that for me early on, I got to make sure that our guys are doing things the right way. And if they're not, I think the result we get, if it's a good one, starts to teach them in a negative way. What's your philosophy on that?
I would say, the game's kind of evolved, and it's always changing. And I can remember back in the day when, I was mowing the field, lining the field, ordering all the gear, and coaching, pitching, catching, hitting, everything. It was just me. When I first started, it was just me running a varsity program. Look at it today. I've got a great staff of people. Jason Borcherding's my catching guy. Mike Foley's been here 15 years with me. Taylor Majors played for me here. Has been here almost 10 years. And I've just added staff to me. So, where things have just been just me, now we've got kind of position guys, and I let my guys coach. I mean, these guys are specialists at what they're doing. We are a lot more structured than we used to be because you know, when you've got the horses, you don't always have to be quite as structured. We've been very fortunate with that. But, you know, there are things that we believe you should do, but we just can't cookie cut everybody's swing, everybody's release point, everybody's lead, everybody's arm angle. So you got to deal with individuals within the structure of, like, this is how you do it. You know, making sure we know the mental part of it, make sure we know, you know, the baseball IQ. And then transition into the athleticism, and then training up the body and hitting the weights, off-season training. So it is a process. It's a year-long deal. You know, you don't get to take a lot of days off when you're trying to be really good.
Sounds like you learned a lot starting. I mean, you had to cover every position as a varsity baseball coach. First of all, how has the landscape changed? And then the second part of this question is, what goes into you finding the right assistant? What do you look for in an assistant coach then?
Well, it's somebody that can throw BP.
That's true.
Hit fungo and throw BP. And look, we look for guys that care about other people. I mean, first of all, you've got, what is so cool is that, you know, we're all this time of year working with so many guys in 4-on-1s. Mm-hmm. Half of those guys, or 2/3 of them, are never going to play high school baseball. And yet our guys are pouring into them just like, you know, they're the 3-hole hitter, and they're just like they're the number 1 on Friday night. So, which is good. I look for good people. I've been very, very fortunate to have good people. Ben Abner was here. Mike Foley was here. Hey, guys at Milton with Eric Rubin and Jeff Dozier and just Chuck Crawford and so many. I could go for decades and talk about the people that have been a part. So we look for good people. Playing experience obviously is a key. All these guys have played at a high level, coached at a high level. Jason's been a head high school coach. Foley played in college. Taylor Majors played in college.
Somewhere that your players can then go to for resource and information saying, hey, this is a guy who's been here. If I've got a question about how to throw a pitch, how to grip a pitch, hey, maybe it's even on the mental side of it. How do I deal when I've got 500 people around me and they're all screaming for my head, and I've still got to be able to focus and make the next pitch kind of thing?
True. And you think about how these kids that have played, I mean, look at the age difference between, you know, Taylor Majors, who's, you know, just 30, and, you know, here I am older than that. So, I mean, these guys connect with them, and, you know, I just let them do their thing. And so we're working with Cam Fritz this year at the Hill, who's, you know, was a successful pitcher. And look at where we've gone to with the Rapsodos and the TrackMans and the technology. All of that has its role. Do
you guys use technology as a forefront to measure a player's success?
We do. It's taken me a while to kind of come to the understanding of the importance of that. I think you can, it has its place. Technology's got its place in everything. You look at AI and everything that's going on with that. But, you know, the launch angles and this and that, you know, which is unique, you can, you know, take some BP inside, oh, that's gone. And now look at it and say, you know, it's gone at the rec park. It's not gone here. So it's got its place, you know, the spin rates, the ball strike ratios, you know, the differential between fastball changeup. It has its place, and we utilize that because instant feedback with a radar gun, bat speed, exit velocity, all that has its place, and so I think it's good.
How do you then go about evaluating players, and how do you foresee a freshman to then, hey, 4 years down the road, I could see him in this spot? Is that the way you evaluate, or are there some non-negotiables? Maybe I'm looking at the person instead of the player. You know, we can develop that skill set, but if he doesn't have X, Y, Z, then he's not going to work in this program. What is that here at Etowah? You know,
freshmen pretty much get free look. You know, we take a lot of freshmen on the JV. The hard cuts are made at the sophomore level because, you know, you're trying to evaluate then, you know, is that guy going to ever make the varsity baseball team? And some years it's just because of so many good in this class. It's tough to be in the program. Some years it's tough to be a junior because you've got so many seniors. You know, we obviously look at speed and look at how, you know, like I was 5'10", $160, as a freshman. You know, I mean, I was a big freshman per se. Some guys who just have not, you know, matured yet, hit their growth spurt. So if the guy's kind of small and not really gotten strong yet, we hope he's just got the skill set, you know, speed, hand-eye, you know, good feet and hands. We just look at those variables and it's, to kind of differentiate yourself between another player. That's what we preach early on in August. Say, look, guys, you know, the funnel gets pretty small. All y'all played ball last year that goes to try to, you know, be a part of the Bird Gang. And it's tough. We're looking right now. It's a lot of tough cuts right now because, you know, this guy can hit, this guy's a lefty, this guy can run, this guy can throw, but he can't do this.
Right.
So, yeah, that's the worst part of this is to tell a kid that you can't play, you know, Etowah baseball. However, we've had kids in the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, we've cut a kid 3 times. He came back and made it as a senior, and now he's pitching in college. So there's some great stories that we, you know, share with our guys. Say, look, you know, come back. Even, you know, the story Michael Jordan didn't even make his, you know, high school team as a junior, and he turned out all right, like a lot of Tar Heels do.
And that also goes to show where you've got then college commits. So it's not only then making varsity, it's, am I even going to sniff the field when I got a guy committed to Tennessee, UGA, UNC, wherever they're going? It's like, that's some big shoes to fill right there. I want to go back to your 2017 season. And this was one of your 3 championships as a high school coach, 2 here at Etowah. That was my senior year as well. We pitched against you guys, and you finished 7-8 in region play, and then went to the playoffs. 4 of the 5 rounds, went 3 games, all on the road, and then you beat Woodstock, swept Woodstock for the championship. There had to be some adversity along that road, especially for Roswell as a 5 seed. We snuck in at the at-large bid and somehow found a way to beat you guys 2 out of 3, the state champs. What happened?
I mean, you could write a book on that year. I mean, we had some guys at your place. We had 2 guys, the starting pitcher game 1 and the starting catcher, quit between the doubleheader. And so we just hand the ball to, not the ball, but the catcher that was a sophomore, you know, Connor Bowen took over. And then we had to obviously find a number 2. But we just kind of galvanized. Waters had been hurt. He'd sprained his ankle, and Andrew Keene helped carry us. But I tell you, we just like, it got to a point where, you know, we'd had some success for the last 8 or 10 years before. Hey, everybody, we're going to make the play. We got to make the playoffs. It was not to win the state championship. It was to get in. You know, nobody wants to be those guys that like, hey, we didn't even get, you know, like North Carolina this year. You know, they ain't even going to a bowl game.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to get into the dance. And, you know, we lose 2 out of 3. I think Walton swept us that year, 2 out of 3. We lose to Woodstock, 2 out of 3 to you guys. We go in having to, you know, beat Cherokee in the last game to get in. And maybe we'd have got the bid. I don't know. You guys had a really good team that year. So, you know, we kind of limp in, and ironically, you know, we go on the road. I went and scouted East Coweta, and they were like 24-4, but they lost that last game. And I went down there, and I'm like, gosh, you know, these guys, you know, if we pitch it well and this and that, you know, we've got a shot. And so we win game 1. Game 2, they beat us like a drum with a walk-off grand slam, and you know, go back the next day and win that. Yeah. The bus broke down game 1. Next game we go to like Mountain View. The bus driver gets lost. Then we split at Brookwood. Bus driver has a wreck that night. We sit around. We get home. These are school nights. We're getting home at 1:32 in the morning.
2 bus wrecks?
One of them first time I got lost. Went to went to the wrong field. You know, we'd never traveled.
Yeah.
And we're playing good teams. Mountain View, we split with Mountain View. And look, we could have lost all of those series. You know, East Coweta, Mountain View, Brookwood, you know, North Gwinnett. You know, to win that game, turn a double play to get in the deal, and then to go play Woodstock, who kind of handled us for 2 or 3 years in a row. We just hadn't had a lot of success. And you think about that series, bases loaded, nobody out. We get out of their deal. I mean, we're just very fortunate. Go extra innings in game 2.
Do you think then the momentum from how everything resulted, all the roadblocks. I mean, there was literally no excuse left not to win a game.
Yeah.
It seemed like, and that was where your guys just went in, man, there's nothing else that can go wrong at this point.
Yeah.
Did that, you think, actually help your guys?
Absolutely. I mean, we played loose. We fought so hard to get in that year, and we played loose. We definitely overachieved. You look at those, it's like two guys on that team to play. Waters, carried us. Player of the year in the Gatorade, and Andrew King with his arm. But I mean, I could run down the list of guys, that really carried us on the mound. But we just, that's what's so cool about just creating culture and having a good team. And it's like, look, some diversity will galvanize you guys, and it did for us, trying to limp in and go into practice knowing, hey, this is a must win, and then coming out and beating Cherokee in that last series, it's a fresh start. It's just a reset. It's that Control-Alt-Delete that you do, and it's like, okay, we're still playing. The goal is to win your last game. So once you get into it, I noticed what Dexter Fowler said at Milton. He said, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to win our last game. And everybody's like, okay. This was at Milton in 2004, and we had the horses that year too. And ironically had defeated East Coweta in that series. So
win the last game, that kind of almost sounds like a lot of that 1-0 philosophy in football. Hey, if I win the last game and I'm the last one still standing, I'm holding up a championship trophy at the end of this thing. Is that kind of how you then viewed that season? And then also looking at the 2024 season, did things go smoother, hopefully, through that run, or what did that look like?
It went smoother. Had better pitching that year, but still, we were still kind of young. And like I said, you're always trying to compete. You're like, oh, I'm going to try to win the state championship. I'm going to try to win the you just take one. You just compartmentalize a game. Let's just win the inning, win the AB, win the play. You can't get ahead of yourself. It's like golf. I'm going to try to break par. Let's just hit the first tee ball in the fairway, and let's try to make a par and get out of here. Let's don't worry about too far down the line. And that's my goal, because everybody wants, once you've had success, it's like, hey, this is our year. This is our year. I think every year is our year. But in reality, you got to keep these guys focused on the small thing. Let's have a good day of practice. Let's have a good game. Let's win the week. Our mantra's like, let's win the week. 2 out of 3. It's, we're going to go sweep somebody. Let's win the week. You win the week, you're going to win the region.
What does a successful practice plan look like for you? Your philosophy around, all right, you guys do at the high school level practice 6 days a week. You'd think that we got all the time in the world to do that, but that time gets away from you pretty quick if you don't run a tight ship. How do you run practices? What does a really good practice look like?
That's a great question. I've got some guys that help structure the practice. Majors and Borcherding and Foley are really good at that. Their administration, and but it's also got to be pretty flexible. If somebody beats us first and third, we'll work on that. If double cuts need working on that day, if the squeeze play, if you're playing somebody that really runs, holding runners. So things change. You got your preseason work that you've got to get everybody in shape. And that's another thing. A successful practice is contingent on your weather. It's contingent upon availability to, field space. And then you're working on trying to do cuts, and then you're trying to work with your junior program. So yes, your junior Eagles and your junior varsity.
All on one field, one facility.
Yeah, you got to get, organizational is important. And so, I'm leaning on those guys to really help me, because they'll draw stuff up that they think based upon their position. Hey, our guys need to work on this. I need our catchers, Borcherding. I need to catch more pins. I need to catch. So instead of going in there and hitting in the cage early when it's called, he needs to work with catchers. And so we're trying to get there. I've that's not been my strength, and I see what I need to do, but communicating with our guys has really been an asset to, like, this is what I see. And I'm like, over the years, letting these guys do what they do.
You've got to work with some guys in your program, Drew Waters, Sawyer Gibson Long, and then all these college commits and guys who you've assisted to get to the next level, that's collegiately and professionally. When you get a stud coming into your program, first of all, do you know it their freshman year, or will they develop? And then also, what does that developmental process look like? Is there a way that you would coach them differently than your average player?
You know, we're always looking for those guys that can come in and play early and a long time. I mean, it's ironic that we've had 3 studs with Deion Cole, Matthew Sharman, and Trevor Condon. You know, those guys came in as freshmen, touted, highly ranked, committed, good size, strong guys. You know, that's been a unique blessing for us here at Etowah, and I'm going to miss those guys. But we've had several other freshmen that have come in and participated. Some guys have just developed. And we want to fast track guys as early as possible. But having those 3 here for so long, it's been, they model what young guys should do to get to be able to play. And so here comes Caden Borcherding. You know, he was our catcher for the state championship year.
Right.
You know, he came in, he was skilled, but he also was modeled by, you know, junior and senior guys. Here comes Colin Anderson as a freshman last year who set our RBI record. That's a tribute to Trevor and Sharman, Deion being on the base all the time. But dude got it done. The guy's got some pop, you know, and he was on the gold medal, you know, USA team, and as Sharman was too. So when these guys come in, you know, we don't treat them any different. But what happens is the guys that are older kind of take them under their wing, you know, like Sharman. And
that sounds like your philosophy that, you know what, if I can coach my seniors, that's a group of 5, 6 guys who can then handle the younger, lead by example, so I don't need to spend my time one-on-one with these younger guys to show them this is how we play Etowah baseball, it kind of sounds like.
Well, you mentioned about, you know, what's a successful practice plan or a practice. Mm-hmm. When you've got, you know, Trevor Condon trying to run down every ball in the gap instead of just during a BP session, you know, not getting after it. You know, and when you got, you know, Deion trying to make every play in the hole or up the middle and you know, really challenging his own self. Sharman over here throwing great pins, maybe taking a young guy under his wing and saying, you know, this is how I throw that amazing changeup. You know, those guys lead by example. They're not just hanging around. You know, people see those guys, you know, getting their reps, trying to get better. And when you saw, you know, same thing with Eddie Prash and Dexter Fowler used to do the same thing at Milton. When you see those guys that they could take a playoff, they could take a day off, and so what? But their philosophy is like, I want to get better, be better, and you know that's the key. Hey, did we get better today? Just a little bit. Did I figure something out on my breaking pitch? Did I figure something out at the plate? You know, did I get a good read or jump?
Yeah.
So that's the key is you know, these older guys having the passion to get better and then to take younger guys under their wing.
This next question, what I like about that, and your philosophy kind of answers that. It sounds like, is there a correlation between talent and leadership? And the way I think you're about to answer this is that I'm going to let my seniors who lead by example, because we've developed them the right way, to hustle for every play, to say this is how you get it done without actually having to verbalize it. What have you seen around that? Have you found that some leaders aren't the most talented guys, or do you tend to breed that, all right, the talented guys are the ones going to be showing the way because...
Well, so you know, some of the best leaders are those that serve others. Leadership comes from serving. We've had, you know, a lot of reserve guys that have been leaders because they serve others. They're the guys that, and that's kind of been our mantra since 17. Let's be selfless and let's be relentless. And Coastal Carolina imparted that in us after their trip to the World Series. So yeah, you don't have to be the superstar to be a leader if you're doing the right thing in the classroom and in the campus and with your fellow teammates. People, you have a platform to verbalize, you know, what you need to do. You know, and leadership is so crucial to anybody's program. Fortunately, our older guys here, I mean, look, they just come, they're good kids, they come from good folks. I mean, you just can't flip the switch usually in high school with a kid that's been modeled and parented. And so our kids just come from good people, and I'm very blessed to be around a community that has, they raise their kids right. They try to do the right thing. They want to give back, and it just helps galvanize this community for this program and for such a time as this.
What would some of your guys say about you as a coach and as a person? What do you think that answer would be? Because I want to ask some of them too.
I think they would say, I'm old school. I tell them I'm old school.
And what is that? What does old school for baseball mean?
Well, I mean, it's just like you respect the game. You hit a home run. You don't have to be bat flipping stuff. You don't have to. Act like you've been there before.
Yeah.
You honor the game. You respect your team. And these guys do that. I think they'd say that. I'd hope they would say I care about them as a person. I'm not spending, an unequal amount of time with the guys that, or the dudes that I care about everybody, whether you're in the lineup, not in the lineup, because that's the goal. I'd hopefully that they just know I care about them, that they know I want to win, and
you're developing people.
I think that's the mission. I think that's the goal of any organization. Is yes, the success is a byproduct of developing the people.
Right. Guys, here with Caden Borcherding, #1 ranked catcher in the nation according to PBR. He's going to share some of his mental approach in terms of getting behind the dish, working with pitchers, and coordinating signals. We've got a new style catching right here.
Yep.
Left knee down, right knee down,
right.
Traditional secondary. What does that look like to start a game? Where do you feel most comfortable?
For me, I'm comfortable in all of them. I train with all my guys, and I always work every position just so that I'm pretty flexible with what I can do. Depending on who's on the mound too, that helps, what pitch is coming, wherever I'm gonna set up for the pitch. Fastball away, pretty simple, just here. I usually go left knee down for here, and then I'll go right knee down.
So you're framing out basically to the umpire showing, and you're
Right.
almost setting that limit there that
Right.
if the pitcher throws with inside of that knee, you're going to get the strike call.
Yeah. Even I always get the pitches, if it's white line, I can grab those too. So wherever I'm set up, I always set up to where I can steal a strike, even if it's a strike or if it's a ball.
Looking at managing a pitching staff, this is where every guy has a different style about how they like you setting up, along with calling pitches. How do you manage those situations where, let's say, he's having an off day?
Yeah.
Are you managing pitchers differently depending on, all right, some might need a kick in the butt, some might need, all right, let's settle down.
Yeah.
What does that kind of look like for you? What's your philosophy on that?
Yeah, depending on who's on the mound, I have good relationships with all my pitchers. So, I can always be hard on them and they'll understand, or I can be buddy-buddy with them and they'll also understand that. So whenever I need to and I go out there and I get into them because they messed up a pitch and we got crossed up, or because they're just not doing well and they're not hitting their spot, so I can go out there and be really honest with them and talk to them about it and get on to them if I need to.
You're a big football guy. Are there any coaching philosophies that you then took from other sports and brought it into baseball that you found that are good?
I wouldn't. I love football because I was a lot better than that than basketball. But there's nothing about breaking a huddle, seeing if that play that you called is going to be successful, and the teamwork of that, the training in August, and the work that you got to put in as a team to be successful. And fortunately, I was at a high school that had success, and we wanted to kind of maintain. Momentum is hard to get, but it's easier to keep. And so we've got, I think about the momentum that our guys have established. I've been very fortunate when I first got here. It was 4 or 5 guys that were like, look, guys, we just, let's try to get this thing going. I had a good JV group coming up, and we kind of got the momentum going. So, whether it's football or any sport, I just want to compete. I want guys that compete. They compete in the weight room. they compete with their training off-site. We do some rapid speed and performance stuff. I think some of your guys probably go there. Just compete. Let's see what you've got. All I want is all you've got, and that's a training mantra that we kind of adhere to.
And competition seems like the best way that you found to get the most out of your players, and especially I'd imagine when things really get going and the pressure's on, then they can kind of look back at that as the way. Is that the way you see it?
Well, yeah, you've got to replicate game-like situations. You've got to have events at your practice that stimulate that competition, that create that moment. The moment can't be too big for you, and it's hard to do that. But we emphasize that. I think that's got to be a part of anybody's practice to kind of simulate positions, positional events for different people, and then it's part of evaluating people. But it's like who's the guy you want up there? Who do you want with the ball? Who do you want to plate? You look back at the World Series and the guy that didn't get to jump at third base with Toronto. What happened there? That cost them the World Series. Maybe. I don't know if that was his fault, third base guy's fault. I don't know what happened. I just know he was too close to the bag and got too late a break on the ground ball to second base. So you simulate those events, and then who can make the play? Look at the play the second baseman made, saved them the game. So
look at both sides of that, yeah.
Yeah, baseball is just a sequence of plays. Who makes the most plays? I'm listening to Belichick talk about how they didn't make enough plays against Duke. I could say that's probably true for the whole season with North Carolina. But I mean, the fact you got to make plays. And look, players make plays. And fortunately, we've had some good players, but they don't always make every play. Baseball, it's a game of failure. You look at how do you handle a bad AB. And being able to make intra-at-bat adjustments is very important. And handling the failure of making outs and or walking guys or booting the ground ball or dropping a fly ball. How do you handle that adversity? And so to simulate that in situations where it costs you something, is imperative.
One more question from the dugout here, and it's one I'm interested in because you've been coaching at the high school level for so long. There have been opportunities, I feel, that you've gotten to go back to college, to coach at the professional level. What is it about high school that wants you to keep coming back? Is it this age group, or what's the dynamic there?
Well, I appreciate your flattery, but I have talked to some colleges back in the day, and but really, this age group I'm just where I'm supposed to be. I've been very nomadic in my coaching career in North Carolina, a couple places in Georgia, a couple places in Florida. But to land here, you want to go where you're celebrated, not tolerated. So these guys, and I've been run off a few places. So I appreciate the kind words, but high school this is where I think I can have more of an impact on the lives of young people. Teaching health in the classroom and fitness and some other things. And that's important to me too. It's just not only the baseball, which, you get associated with being a coach at a certain program, but I'm also a teacher here at Etowah, and they've been good to me, and I enjoy the interaction with the kids. And but we do take that level of competition to the academics. You're trying to get a ninth grader to focus on health when
they're as healthy as can be, and they can move and do anything you want. What do you mean? What do you mean I need to pay attention to health at this age?
Yeah, with a short attention span, and they stay up all night and miss breakfast, and think, oh, I know about my body because I had it in the middle school or whatever. So I just try to get them to compete, especially in fitness too. That's another opportunity to help train a kid to say. And they leave that semester doing more sit-ups or push-ups or running better or being more flexible. We just hey, be better. You hear that all the time. Mm-hmm. So we can all be better. Hey, let's read more. Let's interact more. Let's get more sleep. Let's hydrate more.
But who's going to do it? Yeah. That's the challenge.
My job is to challenge them and try to coach them up, whether it's in the classroom or out here. The word says iron sharpens iron. So does one man another. So, I try to be somebody that's sharpening somebody, and yet my coachings and my players, have the latitude to sharpen me up.
One last segment we're going to go out to the field for. Some rapid fire questions. You ready to do that? Mm-hmm. Let's go. Coach, for or against the DH? Do you miss watching pitchers hit?
No. Unless it's Sharm. Love watching Sharm hit.
Favorite baseball movie?
For the love of the game.
That's a good one. Whatever. Kevin Costner.
Yep.
You have a nickname, and what is it?
Mink.
Mink. It's not J-Rob?
G-Rob.
G-Rob?
G-Rob is what a lot of guys call me, but in college they call me Mink.
Mink. What was the story? What's the quick backstory on that? I'm curious.
It had something to do with a quote another player attributed to me saying he was as pretty as a mink, but they pinned me on it and it stuck.
Okay.
It was not accurate or truthful.
Yeah.
But in college, I was the Mink.
How many times have you been ejected?
Probably.
So you have been ejected?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Probably 5. It's been a long time, but.
Music at practice, yes or no?
BP. Mm-hmm. BP, music.
Last one. A guy that you hate coaching against but respect the hell out of?
That's a great question. Gosh, Amos is as good as any of them. I wouldn't say I hate coaching against.
Not hate, anybody. I think that's a different word, yeah.
There's certain places, you always, going into Parkview with Chan Brown's teams, that's a tough place to go. When you used to coach against Mickey McMurtry at Lassiter, what a tough place to play over there, but a great guy. Harvey Cochran back in the day at North Cobb.
Yeah.
Even Buck at Parkview back in the day. That's a loaded question.
Not a rapid fire. Man, I got to pick better questions than for this. That seems like
it's because I've been doing this a long time.
Sure.
I've got coaching in various states and this and that, but I have a respect for everybody, and there's really no coach that I just don't really enjoy competing against. I equally want to beat everybody.
Fair. Coach, I think that's a wrap for today. I really appreciate the time joining us on the Coach's Corner. Thanks for sharing the wisdom.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Guys, we'd like to thank Better Baseball one more time for their support of Coach's Corner, this episode where we got this hoodie. If you're a coach watching and you guys want to be featured on the show on a future episode, or you have a recommendation of a coach who wants to be featured, leave a comment on this video or shoot us a message on Instagram. Until next time, better coaches, better players, better people. That's the Coach's Corner.